In interest of completing this challenge before the heat death of the universe, we're finally back with the next Paralogue mission for this challenge. On this map, there's two separate ships that alternate back and forth on colliding with your own ship in the center. On the top side, you have to deal with adventurers and berserkers, and on the bottom side, you have to deal with adventurers and sorcerers. This is also our third shared route paralogue, meaning that there's a lot of super high leveled enemies in the midst of everything, as well as reinforcements that go up to turn 20. Given the nature of this map, a common strategy that I use to make this a lot easier is to keep all of my units in a group in the center boat and slowly chip away at the enemies until they're all dead. That's really boring though, and I hate boring, so I decided for this run I'll be taking a much more unique approach. Despite this paralogue unlocking Shigure, he isn't actually deployable on this map. We'll have to deal with him later. Instead, we'll spend this one mainly focusing on training Hayato's level to level 15 so he can get Quixotic before we complete Rajat's paralogue. She won't be the next unit we get, but this map is perfect for training any mage unit thanks to all the berserkers everywhere. Of course, in order to get Hayato the skill he wants, he has to reclass first. It's actually the primary reason why I went ahead and grabbed Midori in the last paralogue, as she pretty much single-handedly paid for the heart seal that I'm using on him. Money is going to be tight for a while thanks to lack of playing the actual story missions, so having her around is going to be a huge help. Unfortunately, the beginning of this map is super restrictive, so I spend a lot of the first few turns doing positioning shenanigans in the center boat in order to open up a window for my units to be able to make a real push. I don't want to overextend too early on this map, as it's extremely easy to accidentally trigger the boss into moving, which would make things extremely awkward to handle with all the enemies still alive. Since this is a defeat boss map, I need to make sure that he doesn't get himself killed by trying to continuously fight my units. Hayato is the only unit who actually fights on this first turn. He does have a chance of death here if he gets hit by both of the berserkers he's in range of, but the odds of them both hitting are not only extremely low, but even if he does get hit by both, he still has a chance of surviving this turn thanks to him having Miracle. It's also the first turn, so I don't mind taking a risk like this at all.
As expected.
I positioned Takumi and Oboro in range of a sorcerer on the southern boat. If it chooses to attack Oboro, it's able to pull a second sorcerer onto the boat with it. They will always prefer to do this, since they overall deal more damage to Oboro, and they'll always attack in the same positioning, so there's zero RNG risk involved with this. Corrin and Mitama can go adjacent to Oboro and Takumi in order to pull a third sorcerer onto the boat, who they will be able to kill on enemy phase. This also lets them give rallies to Oboro. We can also do some things on the right side of the southern boat by fighting through the impassable walls. Hinoka in particular is able to kill one of the sorcerers with Shiro's dual strike, but is barely not able to kill the second one, guaranteeing it survives and puts the enemy in a very important position for when the southern boat next comes around. An important thing to keep in mind on this map is that the enemies on the further away boat will never move unless you put a unit on it, so we can count on all the enemies down here staying in their positions on turn 3. If Hayato had gotten damaged here, I'd be using this time to heal him with Orochi and Azura.
time.
Because of Seal Defense and Nor Enmity, Takumi can use Obero's Dual Strike to finish off the Sorcerer that she weakened on the last turn, first switching her to a stronger weapon.
That went well.
The Sorcerer I pulled over with a Dual Strike happens to be one of the level 12 ones, so I go ahead and have Shiro weaken it with his Shuriken and Seal Defense to let Midori come in for the kill with her Dual Yumi. When having these two work together, it is ideal that Midori is the one that gets the kills on player phase, because it gives her more of a chance to activate Salvage Blow. I still want to get Shiro up to Live to Serve, but we have plenty of time for that on this map.
Let's give it a go. Watch this.
Amazing.
For the final Sorcerer, I just want to dispose of it as swiftly as possible, so I have Hinoka use the Silver Naginata with Obero's Dual Strike in order to kill without taking a counter attack. This also perfectly positions Hinoka into an important spot for next turn, since the southern boat will soon come back to the center.
Like this. I need to get stronger.
Corrin and Mitama get to work on thinning out some of the enemies on the northern boat. Corrin can go in range of the 1-range locked Berserker, and Mitama can go in range of the 2-range locked Adventurer, all without actually getting on the northern boat. How convenient. Hayato goes at the very edge of one of the level 12 Berserker's ranges. It's extremely important that he uses the Horse Spirit here for the speed boost, because that allows him to tie with the Berserker's speed. Since the Berserker has no choice but to use the Hand Axe in order to reach Hayato, he takes a -5 speed penalty, which makes it so he gets doubled and dies on enemy phase. This also prevents the Berserker from being able to land a crit on Hayato, and he thankfully doesn't even need the benefits from Inspiring Song or Tonics. Azura pairs up with Asugi in order to refresh Midori to let her reach a spot closer to the edge of the boat. But this also does two more very important things for next turn. The first is that it provides her personal skill to Shiro, who needs that tiny bit of extra healing in order to be able to survive the next enemy phase with a sliver of health left. This also puts her in a perfect dual striking spot for Hayato later.
We've got this.
I'll write an epic about this. Oh no! Oh, heck too! Learned your lesson?
Rend Heaven doesn't matter. It will only have one chance to proc this entire map and make a real difference, and that real difference happens to be a strictly good one. I ran through this map only about 2 times before actually recording this, but as far as I can tell, the movement path for this Sorcerer and Adventurer will always be exactly the same. So there's literally no RNG variance on this turn either. In fact, there's actually only one instance of random enemy movement on this map, and it's so insignificant that it's hardly even worth mentioning. The only reason why I am mentioning this is because I thought this map was going to be much worse than it actually was. Hinoka can kill this Sorcerer without moving at all by doing the exact same thing she did to the last Sorcerer. Hayato moves next to Azura, where he can use her adjacency bonus to get a hit boost on the weakened sorcerer. The only thing that I should have done differently here was use Rally Luck with Sakura first as well, since that would boost his reliability here even further.
No need to worry. It's my turn. So weak.
If Hayato had gotten hit or had missed his attacks, Azura and Orochi were on standby for refreshing and healing if need be. Not the end of the world. Now there's 3 adventurers threatening my team. Not only can all of them just one-shot some of my weakened units already, but they're also very fast. This is especially the case with the level 13 adventurer that just moved to use Physic, who can even double some of my units on top of already dealing very high amounts of damage. For the most threatening adventurer, I need to first weaken it with Seal Defense from Shiro. Since none of my active units are able to double this guy, I just need to try and maximize damage the best I can in order to dispose of him. Thankfully, Shiro doesn't have to hit here. The only thing hitting does for me is increase the hit rates for Midori a little bit. Before Midori can kill, Asugi has to move in to chip the adventurer down even further with Poison Strike.
Glad that's over. Hey!
All my units are able to survive one hit from one of the level 6 adventurers, but no more than that. That means I only need to dispose of one more enemy on this player phase, and I'm free to save the other one for next turn. Of my units remaining, the only safe option to accomplish this is to have Takumi come down and kill the one next to Asugi. Before Takumi attacks, he switches Asugi to the dual shuriken. Asugi doesn't need the extra damage, but this allows all 5 of my units in range, Takumi, Asugi, Midori, Shiro, and Hayato, to be able to counterattack the adventurer. This forces him into just attacking the unit that he can deal the most damage to, which ends up being Shiro. Everyone that's still on the center boat, barring Hinoka, will start heading towards the northern boat. It'll still be a few turns before I actually board the ship though, because that would trigger the boss into starting to move. There's still far too many enemies to be able to safely let that happen. On the south side, Shiro finishes off the final adventure, and everyone else gets into position to start spawn camping the reinforcements for the remainder of the map.
That was a good warm-up.
By this point, on turn 5, the map is basically over already. Once I've dealt with the rest of the northern ship, this will be purely a waiting game. The 3 berserkers remaining are all active now, so I luckily don't actually have to pursue them yet. I can just safely wait for them to come to me, so I don't have to go in range of the adventurers. We're going to be waiting for a little bit, so now would be a good time to sub to my channel if you haven't. Here, I pressed in turn without taking an action with Midori. Words can't describe how much I feel like a fraud right now. Here I have Corrin and Mitama weaken one of the Berserkers down to 1 HP before allowing Hayato to get the kill. Then, Azura will refresh Hayato and have him kill the second Berserker. The reason why the first Berserker needs to be weakened is because Hayato can't actually double the Berserkers on his own. He needs both the Horse Spirit and the extra boost from Inspiring Song in order to reach the required threshold. This would be a lot less annoying if I were actually allowed to use Shigure on this map, because he instantly gets access to rally speed upon using his Offspring Seal, but oh well. This way is technically better anyways, because I need to be building support points between Corrin and Mitama. And I've been trying to limit how many kills they get since both of them are already insane powerhouses that don't really need the extra feeding.
I think I was gonna lose.
Oh. What should we do? I can do this!
Learned your lesson?
The last one, in the back, will be left alive to let Corrin and Mitama fight a little bit more together. This is also when I start having some of my units board the ship, which will instantly trigger the boss into pursuing my units. Now that he's basically the only enemy left on the map though, it'll be pretty easy to wall him off completely. Over on the top side, I just have Orochi clean up the Berserker before getting to work on the boss. Thankfully, the boss's range is just barely out of reach on where she has to stand for the kill.
This scum doesn't stand a chance! Fascinating!
For the two adventurers, I want to separate them by luring the boss to the northern side, which can be accomplished thanks to my super avoid stacked Corrin at weapon triangle advantage. The other adventurer will go the other way, since that's his closest path to the rest of my units. The reinforcements have started to arrive, and I've arranged my units in such a way that lets me make attempts to train Shiro without needing to worry about him actually hitting his shots. The first step to that is having Takumi chip the level 12 Berserker with Poison Strike. That put the Berserker at just enough HP to where Asugi can kill with Midori's dual strike, assuming both units hit. If they don't, Asugi and Hinoka are both on standby to clean up, which makes this situation borderline unlosable. This is going to be effectively the gameplay loop for the entire remainder of the map, so in interest of not making the entire second half of the video me just rewording the same sentences over and over, I'll speed up the footage here and lay out the current roadmap for what the paralogs are going to look like, since we're going to be doing them all right at this moment. I won't spoil too much though, because I like revealing most stuff as it happens. Though if you want updates on the playthrough as it's happening, I do frequently talk about it in my Discord, which is linked in all my descriptions. Aside from Shigure, there is still one more kid that I haven't gotten yet that I want to immediately use a heart seal upon recruitment on. Money is very tight at the moment, so I need to delay grabbing this unit until after I've accumulated enough money to purchase another heart seal and ideally some more weapons. I do thankfully have the time for that though, as our next Paralogue will be grabbing the planned S support I have for Shigure, and the unit that I want to reclass is not the one I want him to marry. Since part of the rules require that I get all units married, I'm trying to get them all in order of their pairs so I can work on their supports as quickly as possible. I've already demonstrated this by grabbing Asugi and then Sophie back to back, and then later Shiro and Midori back to back. A subtle thing I've also been doing when applicable is I've been recruiting the kids that you can't use in their paralogs first. Most notable with Shigure and Asugi, as it's much better to prioritize them before their partners because that way they'll have a lot more maps to actually work on their support points. This means that for the remainder of the pairs, you can expect to see units that either can't or make it very difficult to build supports on their join map, which pretty much just boils down to Kana, Rajat, and Kiragi all coming first in their pairs. Another important thing I need to consider is what skills I'm going to be passing down to each unit. On this map, I've been working towards getting Quixotic on Hayato in order to pass it down to Rajat, as her hit rates aren't amazing, and I'd like to be able to have that extra hit rate without her needing to actually go into Baysara herself. I'd rather her stay in Omiyoji the entire time for the extra magic base, and so she can get Tome Fair later down the line without needing to ever have to use a heart seal. As I get deeper and deeper into the Paralogue chain, I'll also have more opportunities to get other level 15 skills to pass down to the second generation. Corrin and Takumi first come to mind as they're very close to level 15, and both of their designated Paralogues are going to come pretty late. I don't actually plan on reclassing Kana at all, so it actually isn't the worst idea to consider passing down something like Sword Fair that I'm trying to get on Corrin to her. But what skill she'll actually end up getting from Corrin is a pretty flexible decision at the moment, since the only thing I really care about is the skill she'll be getting from Mitama. Takumi is very close to getting Replicate, which he'll have the option of passing down to Kiragi, which does sound very useful, but to be honest, really none of the Mechanist skills are going to help too much with his performance given how I plan to use him. That said, he's already getting another ninja skill from Kagero, and Replicate is a hell of a lot better than Golem Bane is, so it's almost certainly what I'll end up getting. As for the rest of the kids, most of the skill opportunities that I'll be able to realistically get are really not that amazing, or would require reclassing the parent into a really weird class for pretty minimal gain. As such, there won't really be a whole lot of extra reclassing or inheritance stuff that I haven't really already talked about. There's only one more funny idea that I have in mind, which we'll get to on a later date.